My mother handed my sister the apartment keys in front of the whole family, smiling as if she'd just crowned a queen. Then she turned to me and said, lightly, that I should be grateful for the charming fixer-upper on the edge of town.
People laughed.
My aunt adjusted her pearls. My father stared at the floor. No one said the house had broken windows and a roof that sagged like it was tired. No one mentioned the land beneath it. I stood there holding rusted keys, feeling the room decide who mattered. I didn't argue. I didn't blink. My father cleared his throat after the applause faded, as if he wanted to add something important. He didn't. He just repeated what my mother had already said, that the apartment suited my sister's lifestyle, and the house suited mine. Practical. Sensible.
Fair.
The word fair hung in the air like a bad smell. The lawyer stood near the dining room window, holding a thin folder. He had explained the will in a careful voice. The apartment was fully paid off. Modern building. Good neighborhood. Underground parking. The house, he said, needed extensive renovation. He did not look at me when he said it. What he did not say was that the house sat on 3 acres of land. What he did not say was that land in that part of town had been rising in value for years. My sister hugged my mother, laughing softly. She said she couldn't wait to decorate. She asked if the appliances were included. My mother assured her they were brand new. When it was my turn, my mother pressed the old brass keys into my palm. You always liked projects, she said. And you don't mind getting your hands dirty. I had never said that. I looked at my father. He had been the one who bought that land decades ago, when no one else thought it was worth much. He used to say quietly that land was security, that buildings aged, but land waited. Now he said nothing. Later that evening, while guests lingered over cake, I stepped outside onto the porch. The lawyer followed me. He was younger than my parents, careful with his words. You understand the documents? He asked. Yes, I said. He hesitated. Your parents structured it this way, for simplicity. Simplicity for who? I asked. He did not answer that either. He only nodded once and went back inside. That was how it worked in my family. Decisions were presented as kindness. Silence was treated as agreement. If you didn't protest loudly, it meant you approved. I had learned early that protesting changed nothing. When I drove out to see the house the next morning, the front gate leaned sideways. Weeds climbed over the fence. The paint had peeled off in long strips, exposing gray wood beneath. One shutter hung by a single hinge. Inside, the air smelled damp. The kitchen sink dripped steadily into a rusted basin. The floors creaked under my steps, not dramatically, just tired. It looked abandoned, but it wasn't. The lights still worked. The water still ran. The structure was solid under the surface, wrought. I walked through each room slowly. 2 bedrooms upstairs. 1 small office. A wide backyard that stretched farther than I expected. Beyond the broken fence line, the land continued into open grass. 3 acres. I stood in the yard and tried to imagine what my sister's apartment looked like. Clean white walls. Balcony view. Elevator access. Neighbors close enough to hear, through thin walls. This place was quiet. No traffic. No shared hallways. When I returned home that night, my parents were at the kitchen table reviewing paperwork. My sister was scrolling through furniture online. Have you seen it? My mother asked. Yes. And she pressed. It needs work, I said. She smiled tightly. You've always been independent. That word again. Independent. As if it were a compliment. As if it meant I didn't need what my sister needed. My father finally looked at me. For a moment, I thought he might say something real. Something honest. Instead, he said, "It's an opportunity." I nodded. I understood then that this wasn't about property. It was about roles. My sister was the one they protected. I was the one they tested. They had already decided which future felt safer to invest in. The more I thought about it, the less surprised I felt. This wasn't the first time something practical had worked against me. When we were younger, my sister forgot to apply for college housing on time. My parents turned the dining room into a temporary bedroom for her and paid extra fees to fix it. When I missed a deadline once, I was told it would build character. When she wanted to switch jobs 3 times in 2 years, they called it exploration. When I stayed at the same company for stability, they said I lacked ambition. It was never loud, never cruel, just steady adjustments that leaned one direction. I had paid rent to my parents during the 2 years I lived at home after graduation. My sister hadn't. She was saving. I was contributing. At family dinners, my mother would praise my sister's ideas before she finished explaining them. When I spoke, my father often checked his phone. If I disagreed with something, the room tightened. If my sister disagreed, it was considered passion. I learned to measure my words. Even the house made more sense when I laid the pattern over it. They assumed I would accept whatever I was given. They assumed I wouldn't argue. They assumed I could handle it. Expendable doesn't always look like neglect. Sometimes it looks like confidence you never asked for. A week after the will reading, my sister invited me to see her apartment. The building lobby smelled like fresh paint and lemon cleaner. There was a doorman. She seemed smaller inside it, almost delicate, moving carefully around untouched furniture. "Isn't it perfect?" she asked. "It's nice," I said. She showed me the balcony view, the park across the street, the new stainless steel stove. Everything shined. "Mom said you'll probably flip the house," she added casually. "You're good with that stuff." I looked at her reflection in the sliding glass door. She believed what she was saying. To her, this division was logical. "You ever wonder why they didn't just split things evenly?" I asked. She frowned slightly. "They did. You got the bigger property." The bigger property. As if size alone explained value. I didn't argue. I just nodded. Driving back to the old house, I realized something uncomfortable. They trusted me to survive without comfort. They never trusted her to survive without protection. And trust in my family came disguised as less. I began sorting through old documents in the house office. Tax records, survey maps, deeds from decades ago. My father's signature appeared over and over, younger each time. The land had once been considered worthless farmland. Over the years, the town expanded outward. New developments crept closer. A highway exit was planned within 5 miles. No one had mentioned that at dinner. I sat at the warped desk and felt the pattern settle into place. This wasn't a mistake. It was an oversight. They had given my sister safety. They had given me responsibility. And they believed that was fair. The boundary was crossed quietly. 2 months after the will reading, my mother called to say they were hosting a family barbecue. She suggested we hold it at my house. "It has space," she said. "Fresh air would be nice." I spent 3 days clearing the yard. I hired someone to haul away broken fencing. I patched the porch steps so no one would trip. I bought folding tables and borrowed chairs from a neighbor. When everyone arrived, my sister walked the property with my father, pointing at the open field beyond the tree line. I watched them from the kitchen window. Later, while people ate, I heard my father speaking to my uncle near the fence. "It's still in my name," he said.
For now.
"We structured it that way for tax reasons. She doesn't need to worry about details." I felt the words before I understood them. Still in my name. I stepped outside, the sound of laughter dull behind me. My uncle noticed me first. He cleared his throat and drifted away. I looked at my father. "What's still in your name?" He hesitated just for a second. "The land. It's simpler this way. The house is yours. The land, we'll transfer it later." "Later when?" I asked. He gave a small shrug. "When it makes sense." No one had told me that the deed I signed covered only the structure and a narrow strip around it. The remaining acreage, most of the value, was legally separate. I thought back to the lawyer's careful tone. Simplicity. My mother approached then, holding a plate of sliced watermelon. "Let's not make this into something," she said softly. "We're all family." That was the line. The moment. Not the paperwork. Not the unequal gifts. The assumption that I didn't deserve to know. I felt something inside me go still. Not anger. Not even hurt. Just clarity. I nodded once. "Of course," I said. We went back to the tables. I refilled drinks. I smiled when spoken to. I listened to my sister talk about curtain colors, but I stopped asking, inside myself, for fairness. I stopped hoping that transparency would arrive if I behaved well enough. The house was mine. The land was not. And for the first time, I understood exactly where I stood.